The first time my CEO asked me what was stopping me from dating, it wasn't during a board meeting or some dramatic confrontation. It was said casually, almost carelessly. The way powerful people say things when they forget their words can land like grenades. And she didn't even look up from the city skyline outside, her office window when she asked it. Just stood there with her arms folded, the glass walls reflecting her silhouette like she was already untouchable, already above me. And I remember thinking how strange it was that a woman who controlled thousands of employees, millions in revenue, and every room she walked into could sound curious, almost soft when asking something so personal. And I laughed it off at first. Gave her the same answer I'd given co-workers and friends for years. Something vague about being busy, about work-life balance, about not having met the right person yet. But she turned then, slowly, her heels clicking once against the marble floor, and fixed her eyes on me in a way that made it impossible to hide behind rehearsed lines. And she said my name, not my last name like everyone else did, but my first, and asked again, quieter this time, "No, really, what's stopping you?" And that was when I realized this wasn't small talk, because for months there had been moments I pretended not to notice. The way meetings ran longer when I was in them. The way she remembered details about my life she had no reason to remember. The way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. And I told myself it was just respect. Just professional admiration, because the idea that someone like her could feel anything personal toward. Someone like me felt absurd, dangerous even, and yet standing there in that office, with the city pulsing below us and her attention locked entirely on me. The truth pressed against my chest so hard it hurt, because what was stopping me from dating wasn't time or fear or lack of opportunity. It was her, and not because she had forbidden anything or crossed a line, but because somewhere along the way, without meaning to, I had fallen in love with the one person I could never afford to want. The one person whose smile I was paid to admire professionally and nothing more. The one person whose world I was allowed to orbit but never enter. And I saw it then, the faint tension in her jaw, the patience she was pretending to have. The way powerful people wait when they expect honesty. And I knew if I told her the truth it would change everything, not just our working relationship, but the careful balance she lived inside, where control was currency and vulnerability was a liability. And yet lying felt worse, because she wasn't asking as a CEO anymore. She was asking as a woman who had noticed the way I never spoke about anyone special, the way I deflected when colleagues teased me, the way my life seemed frozen outside these walls, and my silence stretched long enough that even the city noise below felt distant. And when I finally spoke, I didn't say everything. I didn't confess love or longing or late nights replaying conversations in my head. I just said because the person I'd want to date would never see me that way. And for a second she didn't react at all. No raised eyebrow, no sharp comment, just a stillness that felt heavier than anger. And then she asked, "Why would you assume that?" And that was the moment I knew she didn't realize what she was asking me to step into. Because power makes people blind to the way gravity works, differently for those below them. And I told her carefully that some distances aren't about confidence. They're about reality, about hierarchy, about knowing your place in a world that runs on unspoken rules. And she frowned slightly, like the idea offended her, like she wasn't used to being told there were limits she couldn't erase with logic or authority. And she said, "You underestimate yourself." And maybe she meant it kindly. Maybe she even believed it. But what I heard was the final proof that she would never see me as an equal, never understand that wanting her wasn't about self-worth. It was about impossibility. And I watched the realization flicker across her face too late, because something in my tone must have shifted, something honest and final. And her expression softened in a way that made my chest tighten. And she asked, almost reluctantly, "Is it someone you work with?" And I nodded once, because lying at that point would have been cruel. And the silence that followed felt like a fault line opening beneath us. Because she understood now, not fully, but enough to feel the weight of it. And she turned back toward the window. pressing her palm lightly against the glass like she needed something solid to lean on. And when she spoke again, her voice wasn't the confident one the company knew. It was quieter, edged with something fragile she probably hated revealing. And she said, "Then you should move on," not as an order, not as advice, but as a defense. And I agreed because that was the only safe answer, the only answer that protected her from knowing how deeply she'd already broken my rule of distance. And as I left her office that day, I didn't realize that my answer hadn't protected her at all. It had done the opposite. Because sometimes the most devastating heartbreak isn't rejection. It's realizing someone loves you enough to walk away without ever saying your name. And if you're feeling the weight of that kind of unspoken truth already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because Chapter 2 reveals what happened when silence stopped being enough. And the cost of pretending feelings don't exist finally came due. After that day, nothing officially changed, and yet everything did. Because the kind of silence that follows an almost truth has a gravity of its own. And it pulled at every interaction we had. Every meeting, every passing glance in the hallway. And she became more distant in ways only someone who had once been close could manage. Never unkind, never cold, just professionally flawless. The kind of perfection that leaves no room for misinterpretation. And I told myself this was good, that boundaries were being restored, that whatever fragile imbalance I had disturbed was settling back into place. But late at night, when work emails stopped and the world quieted down, I replayed the moment over and over. The way her voice had softened, the way she had turned toward the window like she couldn't bear to look at me. And I wondered if I had misjudged everything, if maybe power didn't make her untouchable, if maybe she had been standing on the same edge I was, just afraid to step off first. And weeks passed like that, heavy and unresolved, until one evening she called me back to her office after hours. Not through an assistant, not through a calendar invite, but with a short message that simply said, "If you're still here, come see me." And when I walked in, the city lights were on again. The same skyline, the same glass walls. But she wasn't standing by the window this time. She was sitting, elbows on her desk, fingers interlaced, looking like someone who had spent too long arguing with herself. And she didn't waste time on pleasantries. She looked at me and said,